Today, the Biden regime floats the idea of a reform at combating the spread of misinformation. The left finally realizes that social media censorship could sway an election. Who would have thunk it? And the Biden administration is blocked from lifting Title 42. We've got all that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I've got a full table today, and that makes me one happy lady. We've got chief researcher of the Glenn Beck program, Jason Buttrell, who, of course, dressed up
as usual
for me.
You know it, girl.
So well in this lovely T-shirt that he has. That's okay, though.
They have sleeves, so you're like,
yeah. Thanks for the sleeves, Jason. We've got Matthew Marsden, actor and producer extraordinaire, and we've got his first time on the program. Really excited to welcome Jeff Leach, who is, of course, Texas House of Representatives, representative in District 67.
Sarah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you for
joining
us.
Next time I'll wear my T-shirt.
What are you doing to me, man? I know. Walking all dapper and stuff, looking smart.
He's matching me, is what he's doing.
That's true. It's us versus y'all today.
We're like just a couple of bums.
Give me the beer. That's what we're
So I want to talk about, look, Twitter has been a very fun place for me. Personally, in the last 24 hours. I don't know if those of you out there who are on Twitter, who follow my tweets, you may have seen them. I'm just kind of tweeting all the things that you weren't supposed to say. And just, you know what? I'm a woman of the people, and I'm trying to do it for everyone to see what happens, just test the waters, because as we were talking about before the program, we noticed this very large influx of new followers for conservatives. The opposite was true for people on the left. At least they were reporting as much. But it just seemed like all of these new followers were trickling in. Not sure what's going on there. We mentioned before the program, I want to get to the story about Jen Psaki, but we mentioned before the program, Jason, you were talking about, so what is it? What is it? Is it just they don't have any restrictions on bots anymore, so it's a bunch of bots? Is it, did they change whatever algorithm they were using to try to shadow ban all conservatives because they knew that they were about to pass it over to Elon Musk and they don't want to get found out? What could it possibly be? And I'm probably approaching maybe 50,000 new followers in less than 24 hours, and I just can't imagine that it's just bots.
How many?
Almost 50,000, I think.
So I have to one up you. I'm going to have to say I've gained 70,000 followers since then.
Really?
Yeah, because chief researchers, head writers get a lot of followers on Twitter. I mean, it's
like 300 million.
Okay. I see how it's going.
Its size doesn't matter.
That's what I've been told. That's crazy. What's weird though because that is the argument, or some people are, not the argument. Some people are just offering solutions that maybe just people are starting to run back. But I'm getting tweets that are being retweeted and liked and then follows after from I think it was the first presidential debate back in 2017. Mm-hmm. So they're just now seeing these tweets. Mm-hmm. That can't be just people coming back, because you were saying that there was another pretty big actor that was also.
Yeah, Mark Hamill was like, I don't know what's happening, but they seem to have lost 8,000 followers. I'm like, welcome to our world. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, and it's funny seeing the meltdown. It really is. But the thing that gets me, and I mean, we've spoken about this many times, right? If you are comfortable in the marketplace of ideas, right? If you are, I don't understand. Mm-hmm. And by the way, did you see, what's his name? Talcum. What's his name?
Sean King.
I'm leaving. And then he came back. He's like, I'm not leaving. But if you are comfortable, right, with what you have to say and your stance, then what is wrong with having, debate the issues. Let's have a conversation. Mm-hmm. There's nobody around here that's going to be like, we're going to debate this. We're going to debate any issues you have. But what we're seeing now is they were definitely stifling us, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't think, there's not all of a sudden like 50,000 people just went, hey, you know what, I'm going to get on this, and all of a sudden they find you immediately. It's just not, I think that there was this algorithm, and I think that Elon will come out and he'll say, hey, listen, this is what I found. And I think they're panicking right now.
What a difference. Like, we want the people that are on their side that are the most extreme. Like the ones, I don't care if you're saying anti-Jewish stuff. I want you to say it as long as it's not violent on a public forum, so we know who you are.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not trying to shut you down. We're not. That's the big difference between all of us.
It's one of the big differences between the right and the left today that Republicans increasingly seem to be so comfortable having these tough conversations, including conversations that may be risky for us, conversations the right hasn't been willing to entertain, and the left seems so fearful of having those conversations, and which I think makes it a really interesting time for folks that are in the middle, even moderate Democrats who aren't afraid of having those conversations.
Do they exist anymore? Are they still here?
They do, but they don't have a home. They don't have a place anymore.
Yeah.
Political
refugees. So
certainly.
I think it presents a really unique opportunity for us as conservatives to talk about what we believe in, but more importantly, why we believe it and why we think our ideas are good for this country, including the protection of free speech at all costs.
Well, certainly, I mean, if you're talking about these moderate Democrats, these people in the middle, if they are trying to find their home and they're listening to people who are welcoming of their opinion and they're listening to people who like basically just plug their ears and throw a temper tantrum, if I'm a reasonable adult, I know which side I'm going to.
Sure.
So.
And if you know what's funny, and if you're not following Sarah, please do, because she's been very funny over the past 24 hours.
Just the past 24 hours.
Well, just generally, but
the kindergarten cop quote was great.
But the thing is the stuff that you say. I mean, some of it, you are poking the bear a little bit, but a lot of the times.
All true.
It is all true, and it's actually not extreme at all.
Right.
This is the crazy thing. It's just like saying things that are the news actually true.
I like that you pointed that out, because it was kind of sad to me that I'm saying things that are like, men can't have periods, only women can get pregnant, and people are like, oh my God, people are reaching out to me, you're my hero. I'm like, how wild is it that we live in a day and age where I'm not saying anything controversial and somehow people are just like, they're craving it.
On that point, on our TV show last week, we aired this thing. It was from 3 years ago, and it was like a debate between a panel on the Bill Maher show. And it was Dennis Prager was the guy that, of course, they were all ganging up on. But Dennis Prager said, what kind of society are we living in today when you're saying men can menstruate? And he was still trying to make a point, but everything stopped because the entire audience erupted in laughter. And Bill Maher had this crazy look on his face, like, you're a nut job. No one's saying that. And they made fun of him for it. Nowadays, like what you were tweeting, if you said that nowadays, well, a month ago on Twitter or a few weeks ago, you'd probably get banned or at least canceled into oblivion. That's how far we've come. It's
incredible. All right, so to all of these points, I wanna bring up the White House. Jen Psaki, the of course White House press secretary, the poor man's peppermint patty. Jen Psaki responded to Elon Musk buying Twitter. She kind of floated, there should be some reforms to combat misinformation on social media. Here's that.
Just a quick one on the breaking news, Twitter agreeing to let Elon Musk go through this purchase. Do you have a response to that? And does the White House have any concern that this new agreement might have President Trump back on the platform?
Well, I'm not going to comment on a specific transaction. What I can tell you as a general matter, no matter who owns or runs Twitter, the president has long been concerned about the power of large social media platforms, the power they have over our everyday lives, has long argued that tech platforms must be held accountable for the harms they cause. He has been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal, including reforms to Section 230, enacting antitrust reforms, requiring more transparency, and more. And he's encouraged that there's bipartisan interest in Congress. In terms of what hypothetical policies might happen, I'm just not going to speak to that at this point in time.
Jeff, I want to go to you first, being that you are, of course, a lawmaker. It's interesting because I feel like Joe Biden should be a little bit more grateful for the fact that the social media censorship was a big reason why he still had so many supporters, crushing anyone who said anything about Hunter Biden and his laptop. And, it's just, there's no appreciation.
Well, I think the quote was that she's fearful, maybe the president's fearful of these social media platforms unregulated. What they should be saying is being honest, saying we're fearful of the First Amendment. Yeah. They're fearful of the Constitution. And our goal, our fundamental goal as policymakers, as elected officials, is to protect the rights and liberties of the people. The fundamental rights and liberties, the right to freedom of speech, the right to bear arms, the right to life. That's our job, is to protect those even when we disagree with the folks who are on the other side saying things we don't necessarily agree with. And what I hear there is the White House saying we don't like we don't like the First Amendment. We all know that, but they're saying that publicly from the press briefing room at the White House.
Yeah.
It's pretty shocking.
Yeah, not the First Amendment, don't like the Second Amendment.
No.
I'm not sure they like very many amendments, actually.
Well, they're just terrified about November. I mean, this is what it's all about, right? And they should be, because it's going to be a complete landslide. And when you think about it, I mean, what they're saying about how much money, like, Twitter really makes, it's not really a fund-driven thing. Like, Elon's not, I mean, he will make money because now it's going to go up because more people are going to use it and all that. But the truth of the matter is look how important it is. Look how, and they controlled it for years and years and years. And I'd just step back to when Trump first, came on the scene. They did not expect that. If he hadn't have come out and if he hadn't used Twitter, I mean, he literally jiu-jitsu'd them, right, and used their thing against them. And of course, that's why he's gone.
Yeah.
But this is one of the greatest victories, I think. I mean, look, there's a lot of people that turn around and say, well, we don't know, is this transhumanism and all this with Elon. I'm like, just take the win now. Can we just take the win? Can we just have one of them, the Bond villains, like, be on our side for once?
Well, right, and I think that it's important to draw two distinctions here, right? You can take the win and say, you know what, he's kind of a kooky dude. I definitely would not say that he's red-pilled, but he's with us on this issue, which is so important. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if he is on our side on everything, as long as he believes in the right to exchange these ideas. Who cares about the rest? But I do think it's important to make the distinction. Like, I wouldn't call him a conservative. Like, he's the founder of Tesla, so I'm not sure that he's going to be just voting, just marking all Republicans straight ticket.
We're not asking for a conservative to be in charge of these tech companies. We're just asking for someone that believes in the U.S. Constitution and will operate it as such. I think it's interesting that now they want to talk about Section 230. Yeah. I mean, we didn't really hear that topic from them before, especially during like New York Post censorship and all that stuff. But even still, if they do talk about Section 230, maybe it's my tinfoil hat, but I still get worried about what they have plans for Section 230. So you've heard people like Jack Dorsey say they have to have 230, otherwise they won't be able to exist. And so anybody doesn't know what 230 is, it basically gives government protection against other people publishing on their platform. Yeah.
What she really should have said is here from the White House, our position is that we're more focused on issues that really matter. You look at all over the world in the countries where people don't have the right to say what they want, the freedom of speech. They're literally under the threat for their very lives when they speak out. Here in this country, our biggest threat is our southern border, our porous southern border, our 1,200-mile border with Mexico. That's what we as a White House are concerned about, not whether people can say what they want or not.
But they're not concerned about that. Clearly, they don't care about the things that matter to
Which is the reason November is going to be such a bloodbath for the liberal progressives in this country. Their priorities are just out of whack.
Yeah.
What's crazy is she's basically hinting at more regulation is what she's hinting at. And I've heard, I think it was last week, Obama was meeting at like a misinformation council when he's one of the leaders in misinformation. Pretty much the government, I mean, at the same time, Hillary Clinton, I think it was the exact same day, was trumpeting that, what is that? It's some act they're doing over in Europe. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's something so that they can regulate more.
I'm an American,
You got the accent, But yeah, there's some act that they just agreed to over in Europe that lets them put more regulation on misinformation. So you see this from both sides of the Atlantic right now. The government wants to be the gatekeeper for what is or is not misinformation, and that is incredibly dangerous to me.
Yeah. Before we go to break, I do want to play this MSNBC host, Ari Melber, who is finally, again, just coming to the realization all of a sudden that an entire political party could be, banned from social media, that elections maybe possibly could be swayed from social media censorship and the way that company is set up. Watch.
You own all of Twitter or Facebook or what have you. You don't have to explain yourself. You don't even have to be transparent. You could secretly ban one party's candidate or all of its candidates, all of its nominees, or you could just secretly turn down the reach of their stuff and turn up the reach of something else.
I don't know.
The rest of us might not even find out about it till after the election.
No.
Elon Musk says this is all to help people because he is just a free speech, philosophically clear, open-minded helper.
Well, it's a good thing that hasn't happened yet.
Wow.
Because as we know, Joe Biden, most popular president ever, 81 million votes, obviously Good thing we hadn't seen that happen yet. I want to play one more. I know we're going long here, but it's okay because we got to make fun of Mrs. Potato Head herself, Brian Stelter, who he's just wondering, like, this is open Twitter, free speech Twitter is like going to a party with, like, you're just free to do whatever you want. Who wants to do something like that much?
Look, who knows? I think that's an example of a broader question for Twitter, which is, if you get invited to something where there are no rules, where there is total freedom for everybody, do you actually want to go to that party? Or are you going to decide to stay home? And that's a question for Twitter users. Some Twitter users might love the idea there's going to be absolutely no moderation and no rules at all. Others might not want to be anywhere near that. Am I crazy, Matt?
No, you're right.
Talking about
Brian Stelter's taking his ball and he's going home. Who wants to go to a party where you're free to do whatever you want, Jeff?
I don't want to go to a party where he's at.
Look at their faces, though. They're kind of like, what? like, what are you talking about?
Dude, this is why no one from this company parties with you. You're not invited to the...
But it's a genuine question. You see that, like, do they have absolutely... no self-awareness at all?
No, they don't.
I mean, do they have this little thing where, like, they download all the stuff that they do? They like block it out of their mind. Like, oh no, Trump wasn't like banned off the platform. That's gone.
Yes, I don't.
I
think
mean, I don't understand it. Really don't. And these are people that are elected, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people that are like, "Rrr." I don't. I have no explanation for it. I mean, is it just? Do they really believe it, or are they lying? I just want to know.
I can't believe they're this dumb. I just think they're that stupid. I'm sorry. I do. I wish I had a better answer for you. Well, I'll reflect and maybe come up with something else.
Can you circle back on that one?
I'm not going to circle back. Okay, but I am going to thank our sponsor, Moinkbox. So Moinkbox, if you guys, those of you, look, I'm at a table with a bunch of men. Okay, so I'm going to talk for a second about meat. All right, but not just. You guys, stop.
Is it that kind of show?
You are not a biologist.
No, I'm talking about Moink.
Misgender
gives
me.
you access to the freshest, most sustainably sourced meat and fish.
That's when you drink your
all
water.
while supporting American family farms. You are getting access to the highest quality meat on earth when you join the Moink movement. So Moink brings you grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and sustainable wild-caught Alaskan salmon straight to your door. It's funny because when I was going through all of my tweet stuff and I thought about tweeting like, cows are delicious. But then I thought, well, I could probably have tweeted that before, so maybe I won't. But really, cows are delicious. But Moink is a difference that you can taste, and you can feel good knowing you're helping family farms stay financially independent as well. You can choose the meat that comes in every box. You got ribeyes, chicken breasts, pork chops, salmon fillets, filet mignon, whatever you want. You can cancel anytime. Our house literally lives on Moink. My son, my 9-year-old, is obsessed with their bacon. You got to go there and check it out. It is moinkbox.com/news. You will get free filet mignon for a year. Do not sleep on this. That is 1 year of the best filet mignon you will ever taste. He is. Look, Jason's going there right now. Don't miss out. It is moinkbox.com/news. A federal judge said he will temporarily block the Biden administration from ending the Trump-era Title 42 policy. This is the policy that expels migrants from the United States border to avoid the spread of COVID-19. This was set to be rescinded on May 23rd. This was a lawsuit brought by 21 Republican-led states, and this was a U.S. district judge in Louisiana who said that he will grant this temporary restraining order. By the way, just in a cute little twist of events, this particular judge was appointed by former President Donald Trump. So I want to play for you just NBC News reporting on this. 170,000 migrants just waiting on the border. I want to kind of set the scene with that. Watch.
For more than 2 years, many migrants have been denied entry because of Title 42, a public health policy enacted during the pandemic by the Trump administration, which expedited deportations back to Mexico. U.S. officials tell NBC News 170,000 migrants are waiting in Mexico, ready to cross, while the White House lifts the Title 42 restriction on May 23rd.
So, Matt, you mentioned earlier, do these people, are they listening to what's coming out of their mouth? Do they lack the self-awareness? What is it exactly? I have the same question here with Jen Psaki, who seems to blame Trump for trying to invest in a wall that was just never going to work, because I guess their solution is working much better. Watch this.
You talked about having a humanitarian, sort of system in place to deal with people coming across and increase vaccinations and that kind of thing. But in terms of, law enforcement presence at the border.
Well, I would just say if we just dial it back a few years to kind of what we inherited here, the former president invested billions of dollars in a border wall that was never going to work or be effective, instead of working towards comprehensive immigration reform. As part of the president's proposal he put forward on his first day in office, he proposed investing in smarter security at the border, something he'd be happy to work with governors on, and certainly we're open to having that conversation whenever they're ready to do that.
Jeff, I have a feeling you might have something to say here.
It just drives me crazy. We're being invaded, and Washington just is burying their heads in the sand. And that's why the state of Texas has used our own revenue, billions and billions of dollars of our own state revenue, to do what the federal government is failing to do. And in fact, the Speaker of the House today, the Texas Speaker of the House, is in Washington handing out receipts for invoices to the federal government to pay us back. You're double paying for border security right now, federal government and state. It drives me crazy. And, the photo ops are great. The congressmen that are coming down here are great. I'm fine with that. But at the end of the day, there's got to be action. There has to be action. And unfortunately, until we get a new president in the White House and a new Congress, that's not going to happen. Which, again, is another reason I think November is going to be such a bloodbath, because this is an issue that conservatives, I should say Republicans and Democrats, care a lot about, is security.
Trump won on this.
That's right.
If the border crisis wouldn't happen at that time, he probably wouldn't even be president at this point. But he was one of the only ones that was actually coming out and saying anything on it. She drives me crazy when she says, they have no comprehensive immigration reform. That's not what they want either. Those are the things that they say so that they can take the moral high ground on anything. They don't care about it.
Look what's happening in South Texas in our border communities right now in terms of the electoral politics. Trump is probably the highest performing Republican down there on the border among Hispanic Democrats and moderate Republicans. I mean, he won a lot of those border communities that Republicans have never won before.
Yeah.
There's a substantial investment among conservative Republicans down there in the border, because those folks, their communities are being overrun by folks who are here illegally, and they're voting with their feet.
And can I also say that Title 42, we're doing a show next week on the border and what's happening, some of the consequences, record numbers. I think it was 1 million, just 1 million encounters in 6 months. Yeah. That's just encounters. That's not the ones that slipped by and they didn't get, which is, I think, a 20-year shattering record. It's absolutely insane. So we could be looking at 2 million by the end of the fiscal year, which is larger than DFW. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely insane. It's not sustainable. But Title 42 is basically many Border Patrol people, many Customs Border Patrol people are saying that they've already being told to not even think about Title 42 when it comes to the triangle. Was it El Salvador, those over there? When they come down through, they're just saying, just don't even worry about Title 42. Just go ahead and pretend it doesn't even exist. So even though the judge said this now, I want to know what people like Mayorkas and what they are telling their people privately are ordering the Border Patrol to do.
Because that's what's going to matter.
Because that's what's actually going to matter.
Yeah. Matt.
Look, for me personally, it's extremely frustrating, because I took every step to come into this country in the right way.
You had to wait in line.
And it drives me crazy. And listen, I'd say I'd do it all over again and again and again the same way. I'm very honored that I've been able to come to this country and become an American citizen. But this just drives me completely crazy. Like, why are we even having the discussion about having to pass a bill to stop them from coming over? It's called a sovereign country that should have a border, and everybody else has it. You try and come up into Mexico, on the southern route, you are not getting in. There's no way they will let you in. It just drives me insane. And that's without, people say, it's a humanitarian thing. All you got to do is, we've spoken to Jocko about it multiple times. There are rapes, there are killings, there's horrendous things going on there. So they really don't care. And COVID. If COVID was the threat that it really was, that they made it out to be, right? The global pandemic is going to kill everyone. And they're like, hey, just come on. Not testing anyone, not really shutting it down. Because even the amount of people they're stopping right now, there's still, as you said, millions of people coming across, right? Just just take a second and think for the bill of goods that we've been sold for the past 2 years, that have wrecked businesses, that has done all this damage in communities. And they're still letting people across the board. It's just, again, we speak about this a lot, about the hypocrisy of how they'll say one thing and do something completely different. And Americans are like, hang on a minute, this doesn't fit, like it doesn't work, like what you're saying is a lie, and they're getting sicker and sicker and sick of it. And it's going to get to a point where it has to break. And this isn't even, like saying about the border, the towns around the border, they're desperately unhappy. Yeah. They're afraid for their own safety. Yeah. They're not happy. And this is Hispanic communities like, hey, come and help us out, you know?
Yeah.
It's a disaster.
To that point, the government on one hand is trying to reinstate the TSA mask mandate. Yeah. On the other hand, they're trying to get rid of Title 42.
Right. Yeah.
How does that reconcile?
Make any sense. Yeah, it doesn't
makes
make
no
any
sense.
Jeff, I want to ask you, look, I realize that the federal government really hinders Texas's ability to be able to fight all of this off, but can Texas be doing anything more to push back on this?
Well, we've done a lot, but yes, we can always be doing more, whether it's in terms of personnel, technology, resources. Our National Guard is doing such a great job. I mean, the Border Patrol down there, these guys are in many cases fighting a war down there without the support. Right. We lost a National Guardsman this week. I mean, he selflessly jumped into the river to save migrants. And that shows you the heart of the people of Texas and the people of this country who are down there.
Who ended up being criminals.
That's right. But I mean, those guys, they've got big hearts, and they lack the support of their federal government. So from the state level, we're doing everything we can to support them, Sarah. We can always be doing more. We're going to devote billions of dollars to finish the wall in cases where it's not finished, and put technology, support our law enforcement, to do everything we can to protect those border communities. And to hear the federal government talk about humanitarian aid and compassion, a country without borders is not compassionate. That is not compassionate to either side, to folks who are coming here or to folks who are here now. It's a strong border is actually compassionate. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that the progressive radicals in Washington, including, what's her name? What do you call her? Strawberry Shortcake?
Poor man's peppermint patty.
Yeah, poor man's peppermint patty, including her. They just don't realize it because they haven't been to the border.
Yeah.
The president has not been to the border.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think he did go over the border when he went down and fought in the Spanish-American War back then. You know, I mean, that was a while ago, but I think he was there then. You know,
well, he doesn't remember it, so it doesn't matter.
He doesn't remember it. Doesn't remember breakfast this morning either.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back.
What's crazy to me is that Governor Abbott had to meet with.
In a recent interview, FBI head Christopher Wray said that the skyrocketing rate of police murders since 2020 deserves more attention in the press. This was on 60 Minutes over this past weekend. Here's a little bit of that.
In 2021, there was a 59% increase in the murders of police officers, 73 officers killed.
Violence against law enforcement in this country is one of the biggest phenomenons that I think doesn't get enough attention.
Where'd that come from?
Last year, officers were being killed at a rate of almost 1 every 5 days.
But why are more officers being killed right now?
Some of it is tied to the violent crime problem as a whole. But one of the phenomena that we saw in last year is that an alarming percentage of the 73 law enforcement officers killed in the line of duty last year were killed through things like being ambushed or shot while out on patrol.
They were killed because they were police officers.
Right. Wearing the badge shouldn't make you a target.
Oh my gosh.
A phenomenon. Jason's head is about to explode, so I'm going to let him.
I mean, it's just amazing how they're like, where did this come from? Yeah. This is right during the BLM riots. Of course, they don't make that, but like right during that time, they were being ambushed while we were telling people to take a kneel. To kneel down because we needed to defund the police. Why is this happening? Did someone make them targets? I wonder. This is amazing. I can't say much more on that because I'm going to flip the table.
It's a pretty sturdy table. I don't know.
I'll do it.
I don't know, guys. Matt.
The head of the FBI doesn't know.
It's a phenomenon.
The word phenomenon. I mean, that's shocking.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say about these people. I mean, is it kind of like, what is it, the Peter Principle, where where you rise? I mean, is he that dumb?
Yes.
And it's
But again,
not just him. It's not just him. I mean, even here in conservative red Texas, we have mayors like the mayor of Austin who are at war with their police officers. They've indicted, I think just a couple weeks ago, 17 to 20 police officers for actions taken in the line of duty that would be reasonable anywhere else. But they're attacking. They've defunded their police. State had to step in and say you cannot do this. And so it's not just Washington, it's not just liberals in the Northeast, it's even here in Texas too, which is why we got to be vigilant and fight back against it.
Could you submit a bill to change the name of Austin to Little Los Angeles? Something like that?
It's the blueberry and the tomato soup, as they say. The People's Republic of Austin. It's pretty shocking. And Austin's such a great place too that's being ruined by radical progressives.
But the sad thing is that what we're not getting honesty from these people. And you understand, like when you look at the head of the FBI, it's the FBI. So he's the figurehead, right? So you want him to be truthful and to come up with answers, like logical answers, like, everyone watches CSI, right? The bar has been raised now on cops. So why doesn't he just come out and say the truth? And it's because it's a political position. It's not about being they say the top cop. It's politics. He's got a press. I spoke to my friend Tim Clemente, and he told me that very, very often the rank and file are great, like all the agents are great, but as you start going up and up the ranks, it just gets more and more incompetent.
Yeah, and it's the mainstream media, even just as bad. Like 60 Minutes only just now heard that cops are being ambushed.
Right. Mm-hmm.
This is over a year old.
Yeah.
They only just now want to discuss it now, when they're not in the middle of an election or who else knows what. But come on.
Well, next week their special is about the first man on the moon.
Yes,
so,
yes. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
I want to throw another story into the mix here. You guys, chuckleheads over here.
I like it.
Republican Oklahoma Representative Mark Wayne Mullen is introducing legislation that would punish abortionists who perform partial birth abortions with 5 years to a life sentence in prison without the possibility of parole. This is called the Partial Birth Abortion is Murder Act. I love it because it's like,
Absolutely.
I like when the title of the act is exactly like, that's all you need. It's very, very clear. Partial birth abortion is murder and should be treated as such. Abortion is murder and should be treated as such. But so this is apparently unlikely to pass, which I find to be baffling. Right now, they do have the Partial Birth Abortion Act of 2003, and the punishment is far less. So you face fines and or imprisonment for up to 2 years. So he wants to maximize that punishment here. I just find it baffling that in a place like Oklahoma, I'm reading that this is unlikely to pass.
It's, look, I'm as pro-life as they come from the womb to the tomb, and Texas is really leading the charge. I was the author of the Born Alive Infant Protection Bill in Texas and one of the authors of the Heartbeat Bill this past session. And really proud of what we've done here in helping and loving on the women who find themselves in these difficult situations, but going after the abortionists who take advantage of them and others who coerce them and talk them into these life-altering decisions. And so we've done this in Texas, not only the abortionists, but those in the room who assist the abortionists. And so it's surprising to me as well that Oklahoma can't get that over the finish line.
Yeah.
You'd think they'd be able to.
Yeah, golly, Matt.
I just think it's great that you use the words to describe what it really is.
Partial birth abortion is murder.
One of my pet peeves is pro-choice. I have no idea why we're okay with that.
Yeah.
100% of people who are pro-choice have been born.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They are here because their mother decided not to have an abortion.
Absolutely.
It is baffling.
But it's part of the left's marketing, which I think is what you're getting at, is they just change it to make it sound a little bit more appealing. But we're talking about murder, is what we're talking about. And I'd say, my stance on this, and I think we're the same. I didn't know you authored that. We're going to have a big hug after the show, I think. But from conception all the way until birth and then some. That's life. Now, this is the reason why they're so iffy on it, and they have to change the language on some of these bills, like don't say gay or whatever. You know what I mean? Like completely just change the name of the bill so it sounds like something different. But on this, we're talking about life. And they're not going to be able to finagle their way around this. They're always going to sound wishy-washy because at the end of the day, they know that baby is alive. It doesn't matter what effing stage it is in life, it's alive.
Yeah. And being pro-life is pro-woman too. Since we passed the Heartbeat Bill, thousands of women, Texas women, women have been born. Little baby girls have been born in the state of Texas. And for the left to argue as well that we don't care about women's health, look, the state of Texas has done everything I just talked about. We've also increased services for women's health, breast and cervical cancer screenings. The Texas Healthy Women's Program has just opened up services for women all across this state.
Oh, but Planned Parenthood does all
Yeah,
those
but that's what the left says, and they're so wrong about it.
Yeah.
They're so wrong about they're lying to the American people, and we've done a lot of good. The pro-life cause is winning in this country. It is winning, and the ball's moving forward, and hopefully the United States Supreme Court will sooner than later repeal Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
Yeah.
And make it a thing of the past. I think that's on the horizon.
Amen. And again, thank you for all of your work on that in the state of Texas.
Me and a lot of other really great folks.
Well, we appreciate all of you. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back.
So when is that ruling or that judgment coming? That's soon, right?
The Fifth Circuit just today ruled that that one of the key provisions of the bill
The highest criminal court in Texas on Monday ordered a halt to the execution of a Hispanic mother of 14 convicted of killing her 2-year-old child more than a decade ago. This is, of course, Melissa Lucio. And look, we just had a conversation about being pro-life. And we've talked about this before on the show. I think that it's a very interesting conversation and debate to have when you're talking about being pro-life and you're talking about the death penalty existing. Jeff, it's funny, when we tried to book you on the program, this was not, you have been working on this. This has been a project of yours trying to draw attention to this case because you say there is enough there that it needs to be relooked at, and we don't need to be killing, this would be the first Hispanic woman to be executed in Texas. We don't need to be killing her until we make sure that we have, everything is on the up and up, and we have overturned anything that we could to make sure that we have the truth here. I want to let you talk on this.
Well, I'll just give you the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah,
I think
please.
you just put it very well. We pro-life conservatives, we care about protecting innocent life at all costs, from the womb to the tomb. And I have historically been a death penalty supporter in the most heinous cases, and I remain a death penalty supporter. But that is contingent upon us ensuring that the person who's being executed is actually guilty. Right. And in Miss Lucio's case, the system failed her at every turn. There are substantial questions about her guilt. Half of the original jury is now saying, look, there was stuff left out of the trial. There's new evidence that's come since. If we had it to do all over again, there's no way we would have convicted her. It's just all these problems of the system failing her. And so I felt it incumbent upon me, and there's a vast number of other pro-life, conservative, death penalty supporters who've said, this is not right. We cannot do this. We've got to push the pause button and just ensure a new trial, as you said. That's all we've done. The Court of Criminal Appeals did the right thing. She's going to get her new day in court. Look, in this country, we can disagree on issues. We're pretty divided right down the middle, or at least that's what the mainstream media tells us we are. But at the end of the day, we should all agree that we need a government we can trust, and that is trustworthy and fair and reliable. And the system failed her. The system was broken, but we were able to fix it. So that's why I spoke up.
Well, it is interesting too, because I say this often with, I'm a death penalty supporter as well, in the most heinous cases, as you mentioned, but I say the same thing about, we were just talking about policing, right? It's the same thing with police, is that I traditionally, historically, have been a huge supporter of police, but if you are a supporter of police, you have to call out the bad ones to make sure that the entire policing unit stays good and doesn't rot. And so I just think with all these things, it's just so important that we make sure that we are doing our due diligence before we rush into something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, well, it seems like the left's version of at least the police matter has been, if there's a few bad apples, if there's a few certain cases are questionable, or if they're bad, then the entire system is systemically broken, or whatever.
Right.
Which I think that's how they see our country in general, is systemically broken. We're not arguing if there is a case, obviously, where a police operates badly or behaves badly, then he should be punished for that. The judicial system is exactly the same. There's multiple cases where we've seen there's corrupt district attorneys or what have you that have hid evidence, have made it go their way. I mean, obviously
that's exactly what
wrong.
happened in this case.
That's what I've seen on this. So for this one, so I'm also a death penalty supporter in the most heinous cases. But on this, for the death penalty to be used, it's got to be a cut and dry case. It is black and white. Something actually, there is no question whatsoever. But in this case, I mean, it looked like they weren't even admitting newer information as far as like analyzing like the wounds on the child.
That's right.
You know way more than this than I do. I've just read a little bit about it.
There were so many problems, so many.
That they didn't even look at then,
right.
or the prosecutors didn't even admit that in the very beginning. What are you doing there? I mean, that sounds like a clear case that they're like, hey, there's an open case. We want to get it shut, just to make it look good on our little board here, and then move on to the next one.
And not only so, the original prosecutor is now actually behind bars serving time for federal corruption and bribery charges.
Oh, wow.
But the biggest problem in the case among all of them is she had woefully ineffective assistance of counsel, which is a constitutional right for everybody, no matter what you come from, how you vote, what you look like. You are guaranteed effective assistance of counsel, and her attorney, in my opinion, should be disbarred. He's the worst attorney I've ever seen in my life. But it's risky for a Republican to speak out against a death penalty case. But as I spoke out more and more, it was amazing how many conservatives and Republicans said, you know what, you're right on this. Yeah. You're right. We cannot stand for this injustice. All we're asking for is to push the pause button. And going back to, the whole Twitter thing, it's okay for us to engage in these conversations even when we might disagree. We should be open-minded. We know what our values are. We don't compromise our core convictions, but we're going to talk about them and not be afraid to have these difficult conversations.
Yeah, Matt.
Well, I just think that conservatives, religious people on the whole, understand that we have a broken nature. Right? People have a broken nature. So corruption, we're all susceptible to sin, corruption, whatever. So we shouldn't be completely straight on one thing and say, look, this is an absolute, right? Like you're saying, like, oh no, we have to be completely pro-death penalty on everything, and we're not going to analyze it, because we should understand that there is corruption. Like you're saying, the left kind of says all cops are bad. Right. There's always corruption. The system's always bad. It's actually not true. I mean, if you look, the majority of cops that have done things that they shouldn't have done have been brought to trial and they've been convicted for, I mean, yes, go back a few years and that was a different thing, but the amazing thing about the American system is it has a way of rectifying itself and moving forward and fixing things. So, we have to take every single thing on its merit, understand that people are broken, that people make mistakes, and analyze it under that vision, with that kind of lens. And we're seeing it play out right now. It just takes one good guy or a few good guys to stand up and say, hey, listen, this is not right. We need to go back and put it through the system again. And now, there are cases where that has slipped by, but try and do this in Burkina Faso or try and do this in China. There's not a better system. It's not a perfect system, but there's not a better system on this planet than what we have here. Right? So we have to understand the bigger picture when it comes to sin, brokenness, and corruption, I think.
Right, yeah. All very good points. We got to take a quick break. We'll be back.
That was good.
All right, I know we've got about a minute here. I have to ask you, while you're here, what can we do about property taxes in Texas?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Please?
Thank you.
Border security and property taxes, without question, are the number 1 and 2 issues people are concerned about, losing sleep over.
I mean, seriously.
No, look, we're taxing people out of their homes, and it's wrong, and we've got to stop it. And look, I'm the guy that led the charge to ban a state income tax in Texas. I would love to ban property taxes as well, or at least substantially lower them.
We have to.
It's going to be the number 1 issue next session when we convene. No doubt about it.
Well, I hope for
all
some
options are on the
progress.
table.
Good. I hope for some progress on that. All right, Jeff, tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so jeffleach.com is my website, Leach for Texas on Twitter. I don't have as many Twitter followers as y'all, but I'm hopeful this show will help that substantially. I know it will. Thank you for all your work as well. This is great. We need more of this.
We appreciate
Good to meet you guys
it.
as well.
So will you come back?
Absolutely.
I know
anytime.
You're busy.
Anytime.
You're very busy, but
this is fun.
we'd love to have you back. And of course, Matthew Marston.
And thanks for the tequila, by the way.
Matthew Marston, he told on us. Just kidding. And Jason Buttrell, make sure that you are following these gentlemen as well, and we will catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.